Welcome to season 2 of the Evolv podcast.
In this new season, you're going to see upgraded equipment and guests that are going to be joining us on themes of business, self-development, health and fitness coaching, and our journey from start to finish.
So sit back, relax, and enjoy the rest of this podcast.
All right. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Evolv podcast. Your host for today is the B-Dog, Brendon Da Silva, and I will be interviewing one of my favourite guests of the podcast so far. He's my best friend, he's my business partner, and he's my brother, Rianon. Oh, I didn't mean...
Well, there you go, guys. That's what Brendon thinks of me.
Wait.
It's the orange one.
Oh, yes.
You should have done this one.
Woo! And he's on. Well, welcome, Rianon.
Thank you.
How does it feel being on the Evolv podcast?
It feels weird being on the other end of the stick.
Does
like
it?
having you ask me the questions.
Oh, man.
I
Get
honestly
ready.
wonder.
Get ready for this one.
I honestly wonder what the guest's mind is like, having these two guys just like interview them with all these questions, and it's like, oh, what do I say? What do I do?
Oh, so get strapped in, get ready, because this is going to be a doozy
It
of
will
a
be.
podcast.
It will be.
A doozy. All right. I feel like playing pool in this one. So I don't know if they'll be able to see these pooled
Balls.
pool balls. Is that what you call them?
Yep.
Or cues?
Cue balls. Oh,
Cue balls?
The white one is a cue ball.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, it's down there. No,
Anyway.
That's all right. Anyways, fun fact, guys, just for you. Whenever I go to a pub and there's a pool table, I like to steal these little cue balls. So if you notice that your favourite pub has doubles of ones or whatever it might be because yours truly went there and decided, I need to build a collection over here. All right, so I wanted to start off this podcast. Now, obviously, we kind of done something similar to this in our first season, when we did our first 20 before we even uploaded any or whatever it is. They all know the story. And if they don't, go watch the first season. Oh, shit.
That's the best way to describe it.
Yeah, the best way to describe it. Because I rewatched them and I was like, oh, cringe.
Cringe, yeah.
Cringe, yeah. Anyway, so what I want to go on for today is find out. So tell the story about how me and you became acquainted and went on this journey of becoming friends. I want everyone to hear your side of the story, because I've said the story a few times, but I want to hear your thoughts.
How me and you became friends. Far out. We've been in and out of each other's lives very frequently, but just haven't been aware of it in a sense. So our friendship started off when I was obviously friends with my best friend now, Jono, and that's where our connection started, in a sense. We had Jono as the middleman in between our friendships, but there was a period where I always had a girlfriend, and in that period of having a girlfriend, you would be a part of the boys. And then it sort of flipped on its head, and I became part of the boys, and you went and had a girlfriend, and then it just got to a point where I think the road eventually ended up leading to both of us meeting. It wasn't something that I thought would have ever happened because of the way it happened. We ended up being both personal trainers. We ended up both having the same headspace, same goals, same drive. And we kind of realized at a very early stage that we balanced each other out in some weird way. Don't know how it happened.
Yin and
Yeah, in a sense, yin and yang. It all blossomed when, obviously, being personal trainers, you have that middle of the day block, and that's where it started for us, because we were essentially spending the middle of the day either sleeping or talking about personal training. They were the two things we always talked about. And then there was just one day where we were both lying down, and I don't know, it just kind of happened in a sense. We were just like, what if we started a business? I think you mentioned it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, bloody good idea, mate. Let's start a business.
That's a bloody beautiful idea.
So the first thing we did was make a name, and my name is Rianon Bianco, so RDB, and my business name was Recovery Dynamic Balance, and I had dynamic and recovery, and I was like, oh, dynamic recovery, that's awesome. And then we looked it up and it wasn't available, and then we went dynamic recurve. Let's just take a couple letters off and call it that. And here we are 2 years later on the Evolv podcast, minus an E. So we're just taking letters out of names and creating businesses.
Hang on a second. You're just a guest on this episode. I just want everyone to make sure they understand. You're just a guest on this episode.
Yep.
So you're a guest to the Evolv podcast.
Sorry. I don't know what the Evolv podcast is. I don't know what dynamic recurve is. I don't know where it started. Let's just preface that.
You know dynamic recurve.
Oh, sorry. But not the Evolv podcast.
Yeah,
I don't know where that came from.
Just for today.
Okay.
You don't know who
Sorry,
the Evolv
audience.
is.
Sorry. But yeah, that's pretty much where our friendship started and blossomed from, and now we're here.
That's cool. So we obviously give each other a few different titles. You know, brother-in-law, brother. We're just gonna skip over that one. Business partner and best friend. You know, so we've got a few different titles.
Yeah.
Now
We definitely do. You want to ask that question again?
Yeah, so we have a few different titles, right? So you've got like brother-in-law. Brother.
Okay, straight back to it. Dickhead.
So, in a business, right? In a business, you have like lots of upturns and downturns, and I like to always say it's like a stock chart. Relationships are the exact same. Every type of relationship, whether that's with your family, with your girlfriend or boyfriend, whoever's watching, or, you know, gender neutral, like we won't mention any genders. And then, you know, you're friends with your friends, like your, you know, male or female friends, whatever, all your friendships, like all your relationships with other people, there's always going to be trials and tribulations, or periods where it's not the best and periods where it's great. And you got to see it the same way as a business. It's, you know, up and down. How have you navigated your relationships with the people in your life, whether that's family, girlfriends? You know, you've had many girlfriends, so and your friendships.
Mm-hmm. That is true. Now, you're shit at this interview thing. Fucking hell. How did I navigate through it? I essentially in school I never considered myself to be a good friend to others. I was a clout chaser in a sense. I always liked to people please. So it wasn't actually a big thing for me when I was younger. Over the years, developing friendships and learning the hard way was where I sort of found my footing. And finding my footing was understanding that the people that were there for me and uplifted me, like my family, like my friends, and that was more important to me than whatever journey I was on. And I think that was the main thing for me that sort of brought me to the person that I am today, and through obviously experiences and stuff like that, was how I navigated to become the person that I am today, was through understanding that it doesn't take many people to build a boat. But if you have the right people building the right boat, it'll be done a lot quicker, or it'll be floating a lot quicker.
I like that one.
Yeah. So that's how I use a lot of analogies, as you already know. I like to, like for instance, I went for a run today. I'll give you an example. I went for a run today, and running is a very big mental game. I haven't done a 6K run in months. And I was just like, all right, let's just start ticking off Ks. Just go K by K. Every K, there was a new question in my head. Can I do it? Will I do it? How can I do it? Am I able to do it? And you just keep questioning yourself. Over the years of me building friendships with different people, those are the points where I would ask myself questions as well. Are these the right people? Are they being the right people to me? Do they respect me? Do they love me? And that was happening with every friend and every interaction that I had with people. It was only up until just before we went away to Europe that I was, not even that, it was probably like a couple years before, where I was like, I know my crew, I know my boys, I know the people that would build my boat for me. They're the ones that I'm going to put my time and effort into as one of my priorities, and it reaped the reward, because now we've created, I'm saying myself, but we've created a very substantial and strong group of boys that I'd never see myself kicking in the balls any day of the week. But going through, those step-by-step processes and the questions in my own head to develop those friendships is how I came to be the person I am today.
That's great. I wouldn't build your boat for you, but
Buckle up, people. Buckle up. It's going to be a long one.
Just
It's already 10 minutes in and he's already been a Brendon.
just because I don't know how to build a boat.
It's an acronym. It's not an acronym. It's just analogy.
I understood it.
Okay, good.
So for you were a people pleaser, and you'd say that was more back when you were at school and trying to navigate relationships at a young age where people are still developing. When you're developing at that young age, you still don't understand relationships that well. So, you obviously spent that time. You realized after having negative relationships, I'm assuming, that, they weren't the right people for you. And then eventually you found your footing, you found your people. And not only did that happen in male friendships, like you talked about, that crew that would build the boat for you. I'm not part of them. I wouldn't build the boat. I'll orchestrate it though.
Yeah.
I'll be there.
Go do this, mate. Go do that, mate.
I'll be there with my beer.
You have the screw? Yeah, sweet.
To be fair, Jono would be the one building the boat anyways. But on top of that, like, you've also created better relationships or better bonds with your family. You've also had a few relationships with women, and I feel like every relationship you've gained something new, and that's obviously something that you've brought into the next one. And through all these different relationships, you've essentially been building yourself. And then in Europe, you found yourself essentially, which was, a big journey that everyone kind of takes. And all while you're building these relationships, which I know, and, now the podcast knows as well, that a big priority for you has always been your relationships with others. And as a PT, that's a big skill, to be able to build relationships with others. What essentially built your career as a PT, and what has kept you going? Because a lot of PTs quit after 6 months, but you've stayed for the last 4 years. So, let's dive into that.
I think when you do something that you never thought you'd do, it snowballs. I didn't know I wanted to be a personal trainer. I thought I was going to be a physio. I thought, I'll go to uni, do a couple of years, do some background work and then end up being a physio. But that never really happened for me because there was no real passion. There was no drive. There was no energy.
You didn't want to give people rub downs?
No, I didn't, essentially. So, I never knew I wanted to be one. It kind of just happened. I had that conversation with my mum and I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. I don't know what sort of career path I want to take. She said, okay, take a step back. What is it that you currently enjoy? And at the time I was swimming and playing football. She's like, okay, so you like playing sports. Well, what about sports draws your attention to it? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I like the aspect of, building a skill and growing and developing and getting fitter and stronger. She goes, why don't you be a PT? From that moment that she asked me all those questions, I kind of took that skill on as well of, okay, if I can answer questions like that, that means I can ask questions like that. Because if, I become a personal trainer one day, which I'll talk about a little bit more about manifesting because that's where it sort of started, but I essentially knew that if I could answer those questions, I could ask them. And then I took that into my personal training life. Okay, cool. If I can answer these questions because I've done all the study, I can teach it. And my family being predominantly of teachers, it was either the teacher route or the physio route. For me, I ended up falling into the personal training, and then over a couple of years, I just developed the skill of being a personal trainer, but I never knew how to be the personal trainer, the one where people would call you up and say, hey, I've got a question about XYZ, or your client that you have for now 2-3+ years. I never knew how to navigate that world, and that's obviously where you came into the picture and taught me all those things. So it didn't really spark any interest for me until we met. And then when we met, it kind of just happened to roll into a passion from a job to a business to a passion. So now it's, yeah, they're the stages that it got to, and now it's become a bit more of a passion, more so than it just being a job. And I feel like that's how you overcome the title of, oh, you've been a personal trainer for 5 years? Yeah, I have, because I've turned it into a passion.
And you actually followed through with it the whole time. And, you know, a lot of people get excited or fluff up a business to say like, oh, wow, you're running a business. Wow, that's so cool. Or, you know, those social media influencers that have, you know, massive businesses like James Smith and LBT, who are obviously big in our industry as examples. Now, someone like James Smith or Adam Salo, who are obviously big in the industry, I have this belief that they are very passionate about what they do, and they wouldn't have built big businesses if they weren't passionate, because, you know, waking up every day and making another fat loss video or another fly kick with a Kit Kat in your hand would get boring and repetitive over time.
Yeah.
But in his head, he knew that he was actually producing value because he was helping people in some way. So he loved what he does. Where I'm going with this is, what made you realize that you love the health and fitness industry enough to essentially make it your life? Because running a business means that you're essentially making it your life, your thing.
I never put it into my head that I would. Actually, I lie. I was at one stage where I was like, okay, every personal trainer, they go, I want to run a business one day. Perfect. Cool. I'll keep working as hard as I can individually to a point where, okay, I can create a business. I didn't realize obviously how hard it was until obviously we met, and then from there developed into what it is today. It's a weird headspace to sort of be in, especially running a business and running yourself as a business, because, you know, EBT and James Smith, they've developed that skill over time. 10 years, 11 years, however long they've been doing it, it's been repetition. With myself, I think that's been the main drive for me as well, is that eventually it will all work out, it will all pan out. And that's why I have turned it into a passion, is because I can see the end goal. And prefacing what I was about to say before, manifesting is another big thing, and working towards something you can't see, but you can work towards. And taking a step back, saying, okay, see this orange ball? I want this orange ball to eventually break into 1 million pieces. How do I get it there? All right, you pick it up, you find a good rock, you peg it as hard as you can, and it breaks into 1 million pieces. Where I'm going with that, and everyone's probably like, what the hell is this guy talking about? What do we get? Is that if you believe, if you're crazy enough to believe it in here, and you're crazy enough to speak about it, it will eventually be what you want it to be.
But this is something that you always preach, and he preaches about this in all of our team meetings, to all of our trainers, to all of our coaches. You always teach everyone that's in the business that they've got to create a pathway to success. What do you call it? You actually call
the roadmap to success.
The roadmap to success. That's right. I should have remembered that one.
We work every day.
I know. And he mentions this almost once or twice a week, right? So you always say, and you say this to clients too, that essentially you have to create a roadmap to success. And that roadmap is just peeling back the layers of your goal. So you have a goal. Let's say your goal for someone could be getting their first pull-up, relating it to health and fitness, right? The way to get to that goal is making sure that you're building the foundations that would get you closer and closer to that first pull-up, essentially, right? And that would be like, you know, doing a lot of that pull downs, doing some rows, doing some bicep curls to build up the strength and the muscles you need, whatever. And that would be peeling back the layers of that. If you have a career or business or financial goal, then essentially you're just peeling it back and trying to see, okay, what can I do today or tomorrow to get me a little bit closer. Then what can I do next week to get me even closer and closer and closer? Then eventually you're going up or going down that roadmap to success. So this whole manifesting thing, I agree. I believe in it to an extent, but I also think unless you're creating some type of, roadmap to success, you're not really going to get there.
I'll explain it in a little bit more better detail so it doesn't sound all heebie-jeebie, because obviously manifesting is just like, okay, cool, I want to be a boxer. Cool.
I want to be a boxer. All right.
It doesn't obviously...
Doesn't work like that.
It doesn't work like that. You don't click your fingers and it happens overnight. You can't rub a genie bottle and, get that wish. So there's obviously the groundwork that you have to put into getting there. One thing that I've learned along my career is obviously that roadmap to success, and I preach it to all my clients. And the one way that I show my clients that it can be done is by doing testing or seeing where you're at and, aiming towards something and going in blind. But the client has no idea about it, in the sense that, I'll give you an example. My clients, I get them to do testing in the beginning when I first meet them. And then in about a month's time, I do the same tests and we do a comparison. Okay, you did 5 push-ups, you did 10 sit-ups, and you did 5 squats. Did I say squats twice?
Yeah.
Okay, squats, push-ups, sit-ups. These are your results from the first month. Here they are now. Okay, you said in the very beginning that you wanted to be better, or you wanted to lose weight, you wanted to gain muscle, you wanted to increase your strength. Okay, look at what you've done in a month. Now let's just copy and paste that month into the next month. Let's copy and paste that month into the next month. So from that beginning point, you manifested that you wanted to do better. Okay, I created the foundation for you and the roadmap to success in that
now
sense.
It's just a repeating process.
And now it's just a copy and paste of each month. Okay, cool. All right, you find this boring now.
That sounds like routine. That sounds like lifestyle. That sounds like habits. Everything that you preach at Dynamic Greek of.
That is correct. And if you straight into
That is correct. And if you want a health and fitness coach as good as this guy.
But I think that's like one of the things my clients have really understood about me is, in the beginning, you can't really trust a personal trainer. It's hard to trust because you don't know the person.
And there's so many of them out there.
And there's so many. But if you want to be the personal trainer, you've got to help people understand that there is that roadmap to success. You can show them the end goal because you've done it with all your clients, but you've got to make this person understand that, okay, it's going to take time. It's not an overnight fix. You want to lose 10 kilos. Okay, this is one thing you taught me. Start off with 300 grams a week. Okay, cool. You've maintained that for now a month. You want to ramp it up? All right, let's ramp it up. Let's give you a calorie deficit, a little bit more, and now it's 500. Let's target the 500 a week. And it's now that repetition that keeps you more consistent and creates more of a lifestyle and habit change, because it's not just like, okay, you want to lose 10 kilos in 10 weeks. All right, go in with your eyes closed. Do it. Can you do it? No. All right, there's steps to get there. And this is how we're going to get there. If you don't like the way that I do it, I'm not the person for you. And I completely understand. And I can't help you in that sense. But if you're willing to take the journey or take the road with me, the roadmap to success with me, bang, Bob's your uncle. I can create those lifestyle habits for you. And that's where I talk about manifestation. It's good to have that goal written down that we always talk about.
Yeah,
it's
like
good
manifest. You're essentially teaching people, manifest a goal. Have in your mind like,
Yeah.
I want to achieve this. I really want to do this. Like for you, it's like stepping into a ring.
Yeah.
But you manifest a goal.
Yeah.
Now you've actually got to put in
The work.
like the work to get there.
Yeah.
Because you can't just step into a ring tomorrow.
No.
You're going to get flawed.
Yeah.
Now, if you step into a ring with me, like you're getting actually probably an octagon.
I'll
In
see
an
you-
octagon, I'd win.
I'll see you in 10 weeks.
Done.
But essentially, like, yeah, that's how I like to make people understand what manifesting is, because it's not as easy as it sounds. Because you can dream it, but you don't understand the work it takes to get there.
Exactly. exactly. And that's probably something that not many people understand too. They say these things on Instagram, the flashy cars, what colour is your Bugatti?
The Bugattis,
You know, the
the
Bugattis.
bodies, the lifestyle, that's all created over
No, but
time.
that's a manifestation, right?
Yeah.
Like they're seeing like the work. They're seeing
the end goal.
They're seeing the end goal, but they're not actually visualizing how much work's involved to get there. Like, you know,
Prime example.
Mark Thurston,
Yeah.
shredded
Yeah.
as,
Yeah.
but no one realizes how often that guy trains and eats to keep that physique like that. And not many people have the time in their day to be able to keep up with that lifestyle of training and eating like a beast like that guy does every single day.
You never know until you actually
And
do
also
it.
taking gear. But we won't talk about that.
You never know until you actually do it. And I think biting the bullet and going balls deep into something like that, like for instance, when we started, we just thought drop shipping, oh my God, that's going to be such a financial gain for us because all we have to do is put products on a website and then Bob's your uncle. Sweet. People will just start buying. No. It doesn't work like that. You got to get the name. You got to get the website. You got to get the products. You got to get the right logo. You got to buy the logo. You got to get there's so many little things to creating a business or creating yourself as a business. And not many people understand that. And that's the hardest part that people have to wrap their heads around is
It's not an overnight process.
it's not an overnight process. Overnight oats can be made, but there's a process to them.
Mm.
And you eat them the next day and they're delicious. But that's all because you put the oats in, you put the milk, you put the yogurt, you put the berries, you put the cinnamon, you put the honey. You wait patiently overnight. You wake up and you eat them.
Yeah.
That's the end goal, is having that delicious overnight oats.
But there was a process involved to get there.
Correct.
And what people need to understand is it's good to have these big goals, but you need to actually put in those steps to get you closer and closer every day. And that's how you got to do it. Now, where can people find you?
People can find me. I'm on Instagram at Dynamic Recov. I'm all over the Instagram page, but I'm just on Instagram. Just jump on there at Rianon Bianco. TikTok, Instagram, Dynamic Recov. I'm there,
He's
baby.
everywhere, guys. He's everywhere.
Now I'm on the Evolv podcast. Wow, what an honor this has been.
Yeah, it's been a good podcast. I'm glad to have you on our podcast, and you know, my co-host Rianon isn't here today.
Yeah, shame.
So-
What a shame.
No, but you're doing, and you know, you met in our previous podcast, not previous one, but me and you did one where I was sitting in that chair and you were interviewing me and you were asking me all these questions about how do you manage, you know, multiple things at once. Now, you're not a crazy man when it comes to your training like I am, where you're having like 5 different sports, but I would still say you're essentially doing a lot of different things at once, and you're pretty good at managing multiple things at once, whether that be, you know, doing a lot of marketing, doing the podcast, doing Dynamic Recov, running the business, and managing a lot of different relationships with not only your clients, but your family, your friends, and even people that, you know, you get random messages from these people that haven't been in your life for years. And I'm like, the fact that he can keep up these relationships while also doing all these other things is a commendable skill. So how do you manage all those things? Because you're the relationships guy, I'd say.
I think, and this is just for anyone, anytime, anywhere.
I'm learning right now.
I know. I think you have to portray yourself, or you have to treat yourself as how others would want to be treated. If you treat yourself with the utmost respect and you show that through other people, they will show it in return. And you can still be your fun, loving, you know, fuck around self. You can still be a bullhead here and there. But at the end of the day, if you...
Maybe not at my level, though.
Not at your level. But I think the one thing that I consistently have always done in my life is being myself and respected others. And putting those two together, you do create long-term relationships. And that's how I have developed the friendship groups that I have. And I've just, ended up learning to stick to my own lane. But whoever wants to come on. Like, I'm happy to have a chat with you. I'm happy to bring you up, either if it's with me or without me. Like, I love just talking to people. And that was never a big thing for me, because when I was younger, I went through like different types of depression and stuff like that. And it was never really a strong suit of mine to talk to people. And I learned, obviously, through psychologists and other people in my life, like my family, that being able to take that step back, analyze the situation that you're on, and hone in on what's going on in your head, then whatever you output is only going to reap rewards. So if you take your time with a response, if you take your time putting in the effort to learn a new skill, if you take your time to talk to someone that's at a higher status than you, you pace yourself at your own pace that you're comfortable with, you and whoever you talk to will only respect the person that you are. And respect is probably one of the biggest things that I've taken under my belt, learning, what my father and my grandparents have always taught me is respect is number one. And being in a WOG household, respect is number one over everything and anything and everything. If you don't respect the next person that walks into the room, you'll never be the one
Respected.
To be respected back.
If you don't respect, you're not going to be respected.
Exactly.
It's a good skill. I like that.
Yeah.
That's why the WOGs are the best.
Amen, brother.
But I had one more question.
Yeah.
When it comes to relationships, relationships guru over here.
Yeah. We've established that like 4 times this whole episode, but yes, continue. Yeah.
So one thing that you've always taught me is that the only way to have a solid relationship with anyone is to essentially focus on yourself. You're always a guy to say, focus on yourself, focus on yourself, focus on yourself. Whereas a lot of people think, and this is a common mindset to have, that if you want to build relationships, you should focus on that person. People always try to think of, I really want to fix that person, help them, help that, whatever it is. It's always good to basically fill your own cup before you fill anyone else's. And that was something that you taught me. Like, fill your own cup first before you fill anyone else's. Because if you haven't filled your own cup with water yet first, what water are you going to be able to give to anyone?
Yeah.
You're not going to really be giving any value to anyone if you've got no water in your cup. But if you've overfilled your cup, you're going to be able to actually share that with a lot more people.
Yeah. I'll fix up that quote for you, because it's something that I explained to you, but in the incorrect way.
But you taught me in the incorrect way, or I just explained it?
You explained it in the incorrect way, but I'll explain how.
I probably burnt the files.
Yeah, there we go. When you sit at the dinner table, obviously you are the most important person on that table. You have to eat. Otherwise, if you don't eat, essentially you'll get hungry. But being in a WOG household, I've always been taught, if you have the opportunity to feed everyone else first before yourself, you will reap more of a reward than filling your own glass. But you can also essentially fill everyone else's glass and still have enough for yourself. That's my headspace that I go into whenever I'm in a situation. If I'm able to help someone in that situation first, and I can do it without affecting myself, then I'll do it. But if it's going to affect myself, I'm not going to do it. If I know that at the end of pouring all those glasses out, I'm not going to have any for myself, there's 2 roads that you can sit on. You can fill your glass first, or you can pour it all out and refill it yourself and gain more water that you can eventually bring out to other people as well. So there's always like different ways that you can perceive respect, and there's different ways that you can perceive being the best version of you. I think that it's all objective. It's all subjective. It could be whatever you really essentially think.
It's also dependent on the situation as well.
Situational as well.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of variables in every situation.
Yeah. And you can't be the exact same all the time.
You can't. Like, so essentially
you can't be a dickhead that's like, I've got to fill up my cup first.
Yeah. You got to be like that balanced individual that understands that,
it's just social cues.
It's just social cues. You got to understand, like,
Not everyone understands social cues, but learn them.
Learn them because, the one thing that I've always learned is body language, eye contact. If your shoulders are shrugged, you're uncomfortable. If your arms are crossed when you're talking to someone, you're not open. Your eyes are not making eye contact with the person. You're not showing that respect back. Every time I shake someone's hand, I look them direct in the eye. And if I don't, then people pick up on cues in the first 5 to 7 seconds. And if you're showing incorrect cues in the first 5 to 7 seconds of interacting with someone,
they're going to view you in a different way, or a way that you don't want them to see you as.
People make those decisions very early on. And the way you present yourself is such an important skill that you should learn in your everyday life, because you never know where you'll network, where you'll be, who you're communicating with the next day. That's the most important part. You can go to the shops and meet Robbie Farah and just shake his hand, and who knows, he might be interested in personal training and you become his personal trainer overnight.
And your life will change.
That's always a good headspace that I go into is, the way you present yourself and the way you stand upright or make eye contact or talk to someone is just got to be at a equal level where you can go at some peaks high and some peaks low, but there's always a maintenance.
So would you say life is a stock chart?
Life is a stock chart. I always use that one. Life is a stock chart. Doesn't matter how high or how low, there's always a middle ground.
Yes, I like that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming onto the Evolv podcast. It was actually amazing to have you on as a guest.
Thank you, Brendon. I really appreciate the opportunity to be on this podcast.
I definitely want this to happen again. So
We'll do it next year.
Done.
We'll do it next year. Done. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you guys for listening to this week's episode of the Evolv podcast with Brendon and Rianon.
Make sure that you stay tuned for next week's episode. We're going to be dropping one every week. So make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. And for now, the Evolv podcast. We'll see you soon.
And we're out.
Ciao.